Hey, how you doing?
What we got here is a failure to communicate.
You don't know the power of the dark side.
All right, who did this? I'm not mad. I just want to know who did it so I can punish them.
Don't look at me. I think these people are completely nuts.
Oh, welcome to mi casa. That's French for front door.
Check out the name tag. You're in my world now, Grandma.
It's the Al Travis Show, and I have an affinity for our next guest, and I know he knows. I don't know how many folks do to share. 5 years ago, I was trying to hit up the mighty KTOE to put this kid on the radio, and they gave me a Saturday shift, 3 hours. Because talk radio, the idea of spinning records and nothing to say, put another record on, that always is one way of doing radio. But 3 hours of continuous talk was petrifying. I contacted local rep there, Representative Jeremy Munson, the Senator Nick Frentz, and the Congressman Jim Hagedorn I knew. And I asked if they'd each come on and do an hour with me. And they all said yes. You were the first guest I ever had on. 5 years later, we'll be on 10 radio stations here next month. And I appreciate you for doing that. You just got us off. So you're my first guy. And Facebook won't let me forget it. Every time this year, there'll be a post from you and I on that thing. Thank you, Representative, for coming on the program.
Yeah, you're welcome, Al. I love your show. Love listening to you. And when you left KTOE, a lot of people found me and said how much they missed you being on the air on that show, but on that station.
We're back.
You're back. You're all over.
So I appreciate you immensely. And again, I don't know that I knew who you were because of the Between the Lines program, that did cable show. I didn't know how much fun you were. I started following you on. It was Twitter back then, I suppose. I don't remember if it was X by then. Anyway, so I follow along, and you've had some of the best posts about this whole motorcycle can go anywhere law that is now okay. And people, you got to understand, they didn't go crazy. The motorcyclists did not go crazy starting Tuesday. They're now allowed to drive like this. Representative, did anybody talk about this? Did anybody discuss this before we let free rein on cycles?
You know what? When I served in the legislature, I met with motorcycle groups a lot about just protecting their right to not wear helmets. There's some crazy, some overprotective government people that want to put seat belts on bikes and some dumb things like that. And so I appreciate and support their freedom. But the lane splitting law that went into effect on July 1st here in Minnesota has me concerned. And effectively what this allows people to do is it lets motorcycles drive in your lane, passing you within your lane. And it's supposedly only going to allow them to drive up to 40 miles an hour while doing so if they're within 15 miles an hour of your speed. Of course, motorcycles don't have radar on their motorcycles, so they don't know exactly how fast you're going. They can judge. And my concern as a motorist, I usually don't care what other people are doing unless it affects me. But if I don't yield to them passing me in my own lane, then I can be given a petty misdemeanor fine up to $300 for not yielding to people driving, overtaking me in my own lane.
And what do you mean by yielding? I have to pull over left or right, depending which side of the lane they want to pass me. I have to make room?
I assume that they're passing on my left. It would be dangerous for them to pass on the right side of my car, but yes, you have to yield to them if they're taking you over in your own lane, and so you could get a $300 fine if you don't do that. And then the second part about it is that I have a Tesla that has full self-driving option. It has
Before you go any further with that, are you nuts? I can't see me getting into a car that drives itself. Did that not drive you crazy? I mean, I'm at least your hands on the wheel, right? Making sure you can take over.
Al, it is the most incredible technology.
Seriously,
I'm a tech guy, and I work for a similar tech company whose executives came from Tesla, and they asked me, "Hey, you need to get to know this car because of the app and stuff." So I picked up a used Tesla with full self-driving, and it is amazing. Especially coming into a town that you don't know, and you're like, "Hey, take me to this store or whatever." It'll drive. It'll take a right on a red light, looking at traffic and stuff. I mean, it's incredible. Changes lanes, adjusts.
And you're comfortable with that? See, you're a computer guy. I don't know. I'm too old. My dad. I don't think. No, I just can't see me getting in one.
It's the technology of the future, especially for people that aren't as quick on the road. But my concern is that if somebody's driving in my own lane, it's going to probably hit the brakes because of a potential accident. And a lot of people, even if they don't have full self-driving cars, they have lane avoidance, or lane departure avoidance, and collision avoidance systems in their car that are going to go berserk if there's someone driving in your own lane. To do this, especially where your car may shift you over, like can actually move the steering wheel for you to avoid a collision. I think this could cause more problems. Also, just having, I've got a 17-year-old daughter who's driving, a new driver. This is going to confuse people. Coming up to a four-way stop where you're taking a left-hand turn and now you have a motorcycle to your left that's going straight. There's so many issues that I don't think have been ironed out. And overall, I just want to say this. Look, over 20 years ago, the Minnesota Department of Public Safety started this huge campaign to educate people on the zipper merge, right?
Yes.
That it's legal to continue to go forward and merge at the very end. And to this day, more than 20 years later, I still have people pulling out in front of me to stop me from cutting the line, right? Over 20 years, I've been educating people in this, and now they're going to try to educate people on how lane splitting is legal. I just have concerns. We have more important things to do on the road than allowing motorcycles to zip around, especially in a state where they drive less than 6 months a year.
See, and I have a tough time with this because I'm really to the point. I don't think if you want to ride a motorcycle without a helmet, that's on you, buddy. I don't want to get in anybody's business. This idea, 25 miles an hour, they can go to 40 miles an hour, and like you say, at a stop sign, they can pull right up to you in your lane. And I personally, probably this isn't going to affect much unless I don't pay attention. But people, like you say, with the zipper move, we get all teed off. That guy's trying to get 3 car lengths ahead. What are they going to do with these motorcycles? Yeah, they're all going to be at the stop signs, kind of boxing. This isn't going to go over well. But what gets me about it, sir, how did we not discuss this? What committee, obviously transportation, this just popped up. We never spoke of it once here on this program, and I try really hard to find those things that might cause issues. How does this get by without hearings or whatever? How did this show up?
I went on Twitter and responded to Walter Hudson's post just saying this is a dumb law and it's going to cause more pain and frustration and could cause more accidents. Don Gilman, state rep, who evidently authored a change to it this year to restrict it a little bit more, to not say you can't do it in school zones, you can't do it on a freeway on-ramp, that kind of stuff. Kind of defended it because she rides bike and said that it'll prevent more rear end collisions by allowing motorcycles to get out of the way of traffic and stop and go and go around the cars. But it's kind of like, maybe it's more like the roundabouts where it causes more accidents but less head-on fatality.
Yeah.
I mean, less fatalities, but I think that the fact that now you're going to potentially be fining motorists who don't yield to motorcycles, it's just more frustration for car drivers.
All right, we're going to talk frustrations. I won't lead you into the break with this. We're going to talk about on the other side. You may or may not know this, but if you're over 12 years old and you're going to grab the steering wheel of a boat in Minnesota, you better have a special driver's license. That's even you, 35-year-old man. We'll talk about it coming up after this with Representative Jeremy Munson on the Al Travis Show.
There are many ways to explore Alexandria. Some like to experience the outdoors and all the fun winter in Minnesota can provide. Pick your favorite way to get in touch with nature. Others like to explore downtown in the warm comfort of a boutique or gathered around a table with friends. You can do all of that or relax and do nothing at all. Come explore Alexandria. Start planning at explorealex.com.
Achieving your financial goals requires individual planning and a comprehensive approach. At Midwest Money Management, our mission is to provide you with the knowledge, tools, and confidence to feel comfortable financially today and secure about tomorrow. Learn more at MidwestMoneyManagement.com. That's MidwestMoneyManagement.com.
Securities offered through JW Cole Financial Inc., member FINRA and SIPC. Advisory services offered through JW Cole Advisors Inc., Midwest Money Management, and JW Cole Financial Inc. and JW Cole Advisors Inc. are unaffiliated entities.
It's nice to know a guy that knows a guy. Al Travis.
We've got Representative Jeremy Munson on the program with us. Representative, you're muted, by the way. I believe this is just another example of if you can touch it in Minnesota, they will find a way to tax it. I don't care what it is, they will figure it out. What we're talking about is the new tax is you need a driver's license to drive a boat. And don't give me that old driver's license you got in your pocket. You need a boat driver's license to drive from now on. Your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean,
reach?
I grew up in Brainerd. We had hundreds of lakes around us, and so we were out. We did get I got my watercraft operator's permit when I think I was 12, so that learn how to drive boats. And I lived on my boat for years when I was in my 20s. Traveled thousands of miles on the ocean and lakes and everything. So I'm a very educated boater. But the idea that, and this new law says that if you're between 12 and 21, you have to get a license, and the next year it increases another 4 years, and so eventually it'll get up to in 3 years from now, if you're 41 years old or younger, you have to have a license to operate your boat. Even if you've been boating for 28 years, if you own 3 boats, live on a lake, you have to now have a license to operate your existing boat. And it's only like a 7 hour online course. You pay $35. The interesting thing is that 20 minutes into your course, someone just sent me a screenshot. You get a pop-up saying if you pay an extra $20, they'll get it done in 2 hours. How that's even possible, I don't know, but it's a little bit of a cash grab to start out with. But that's not my big concern. My concern is that you can get a fine for driving without a license. You have another reason for someone to pull you over on the water and go through your stuff, asking for permission from the government to be on the water. And then the next one is it may cut off at 41 years of age. But as soon as someone is run over, if an accident happens where a swimmer's run over by a 70-year-old, a lawmaker on either side of the aisle is going to say, we could have saved a life if we would have just made it mandatory for everyone. Yeah. And so I think within 10 years, you'll have a boat license required for everyone. And the insurance lobby is just salivating at the idea of requiring insurance for boating driver's licenses. And this is going to be the next step. This is the growth of government. But the thing that makes me even more frustrated about this bill is it doesn't apply to people from Wisconsin who come to use our lakes. It doesn't apply to illegal immigrants. It only applies to Minnesota residents, in Minnesota. See that?
This is exactly my point. It's like, how do we tax these people more? We have lakes like being a lakes. Well, they touch things on the lakes. I guess I even understand a boat license, that your boat is licensed in case you just leave it on the shore somewhere. We can figure out whose it is. And, I get that. But the idea that now I have to pay you for the right, and you're $55 if you don't want to spend 7 hours, $55. Okay. I can now spend my afternoons on the lake. When did Minnesota become in charge of that? When did this become their? Oh, Al, you were also breathing outdoors in the woods. Do you recall that? I'd like to tax you on that. When did they stop?
Yeah, you know what? We do some reviews of products in our household, and a company sent us 4 paddle boards to do reviews on. And I found out that these 4 paddle boards have to be licensed. They're blow up paddle boards. They're not rigid. They're just like a blow up paddle board. They have to get licensed. It's like $39 per paddle board, plus an additional, I'm not positive on the fee here, but I think it's $39 additional for an invasive aquatic species tax or surcharge or whatever. So you're talking like almost $80 per inflatable paddleboard to use in Minnesota lakes. But if you're a person in Wisconsin with inflatable paddleboards, you
bring
can
those back. Bring them over.
It's required.
Well, let me ask you this: how are we? And I'm presuming all the money we're going to get with people messing this up and fines will pay for more, DNR on the water to go catch these people?
Yeah, they'll pay for more law enforcement. It's also important to note that in recent years, the laws around drinking while recreating, or I shouldn't say drinking while on the water have stiffened. And there's some crossover now. If you get a DWI on the boat, you can lose your driver's license. And that was triggered by a tragic event where someone drove a snowmobile through an ice house and killed somebody. And now they're crossing over these penalties between recreation vehicles and your actual driver's license. So you go out on the water, you don't have a license to drive. How is that going to trigger your car insurance? It's just all around messy in the growth of government, and people should have concerns.
Oh, the next thing will be you're going to need a license to go swimming. These are Minnesota lakes. If you're going to go in the water, you need to have a wristband. You can get only through the government, unless you're from Wisconsin, you want to visit. Of course, we'd never do that, but you are going to need to have that. That's what's coming next. So we're going to get there.
And, the solution here is really in the private insurance market. I mean, if you hurt someone while driving a boat, you're still liable. And the insurance company should say, you know what, if you want to get a boat that does 60 miles an hour,
you need a license.
If you want to have liability insurance for you, then you need to get a license, or you need to do this private course that State Farm offers to show that you know how to operate a boat.
Yeah, fair enough. One last thing, if I can, because I love your opinion on this. This big, beautiful bill did get passed. Very excited about this. I don't know if I'm excited about it or not. Your thoughts on it? To me, I'm not too big on saving $3 trillion 6 to 10 years out when most of these people won't be there and somebody else will vote and say, you're changing that.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Al. I mean, for Republicans who are supposed to be a party for, cutting spending, this is not Republican at all. They call it a tax cut bill for stuff that's going to happen 6 to 10 years down the road, which will never happen. This is historically you can't offset your spending now for tax cuts in the future when it's never going to happen. It's an absolute growth of government, growth of spending. They authorized $5 trillion in additional debt. For people like me that are concerned about the burdening our children and grandchildren with debt, this was a bad bill. I think Elon was right to question it. Elon was kicked to the curb. Vivek was kicked to the curb. Doge is dead. Republicans are no longer the party of fiscal conservatism. And I'm excited to watch Elon's new party, and I hope it.
I was going to ask you about this. Is it do nothing except make sure that the Republicans never get in charge again? You have the Republicans, the American Party, and the Democrats. It takes a lot more Republicans than Democrats away.
Well, I certainly, it doesn't matter which person is elected, if the Republican or the American Party or whatever it's called, they're going to caucus together. But I think it would be nice for people to understand just because they have an R after their name doesn't make them a fiscal conservative. And so if they're endorsed by both parties or however this is going to work, at least it'll highlight people that are actual fiscal conservatives. I think we need more of those in D.C.
Any idea in the last 30 seconds how quickly that could get down to a statewide level where they're looking at our representatives, our senators, and saying, yeah, we endorse? I mean, he's got all the money in the world. He could pay for it to start tomorrow, I presume.
Yeah, I think that the difference between his party and Elon's PAC, which can fund candidates, will maybe be a difference. But the state laws all across the country are really prohibitive against a third party. You have to have, it's really just two parties that are allowed.
Okay, fair enough. Gotta fly. Representative Munson, I love having the program. I thank you very much. We wouldn't be here without you. I appreciate you a ton.
Thanks, Al.
All right, more after this.
If it's your turn to host a